Good morning. It's early. It is really early. We're going to do some painting today. I'm going to try to fix this thing up and draw the girl in it. Couldn't sleep last night at all. I think I tossed and turned and I got some pulled muscle. But we need to make some coffee. Gotta make some coffee first. And don't mind this kind of disheveledness. I colored my hair. I'm digging the color. It's good. I'm in my little back room. Pulled myself together. Don't know really why, because I plan on staying home today, painting, working on putting the syllabus together for my classes, and I'm thinking about making some sweet rolls with cream cheese and cherries. But we need some coffee, so come on, let's go make coffee. And I have you on my new tripod. Let's see if this is gonna work. I swear I need a cameraman. But let's just kind of move you along. Make some coffee. I got the girls. You know, the lighting in the kitchen is bad. Where can I put you? Let's put you just over here for right now. And don't mind the dishes in my sink. The lighting in my kitchen, you know, is bad, but we're going to make some coffee. How are you? How was your week? Mine was... And, you know, and at one point, I will get in a better mood. Maybe. Let's make some coffee, okay? Grab your Folgers. It's the best part of waking up. I'll clean that all out later. I feel like everything is very disheveled. Very disorganized around here. Which might probably be why it's leaning into why my mood is so yuck. Do you know... Here, let me give you a little psychological tip. Did you know trauma changes the brain? Did you know that you could be a functioning, happy person and have years of betrayal and abuse, and it changes the trajectory of how your brain functions? Did you know that? Let me grab the coffee pot. We need to get some fresh water. Hold on. Let's make some coffee. Do not look at these dishes in my sink either. I made the best chili last night. Oh my God, it was so good. I don't know what I did different, but it was so good. Do you wash out, sorry, that was real close. Do you wash out your coffee pot? Do you wash it out in between using it? Come on, come back over this way with me. You know, I have that one tripod that follows you around, but I don't like it. I'm actually kind of excited. I'm going to save my coffee grounds. I'm actually excited about putting this syllabus together. Because that is one thing when I am teaching, I become a whole different other human being. I wish the opportunity paid more, but I guess that comes with depending on how many people are going to sign up for the class and how the class actually goes. What am I putting this? These are all eggshells and coffee grounds to go in my garden. Can I stick that on there? Like I said, I've got a sink full of dishes this morning. And I hope you can hear me because I don't want to talk any louder than this. Let's see if I can stick that on there. But when I'm teaching, I'm going to bring it a little closer. When I am teaching, when I am talking about painting, it's about switching the left brain, right brain from your logical part of your life that probably sucks into this creative side where you're allowed to live in a world of imagination. Color comes to life in all aspects. Gotta rinse this out again. Color comes to life in all aspects. And we talk about what is your favorite color and do you know why your favorite color is? Why you're drawn to that? As a kid, I loved purple. As an adult, I love reds and maroons and that olive green, needless to say. I want to get a black and white floor in here. That jacquard print, I think that's what it's called. We're doing 2 scoops of coffee. And I'm not putting any salt in it. I have been putting salt in it. Only because it adds the electrolytes that you need in your body when your body is tired, when your body is aching. But like I said, I believe in another video, if your joints are all swollen from the heat, the humidity, the bariatric pressure, pop yourself a little Claritin. It's a histamine release. You'll be surprised how that helps. All right, let's go over here. Come on, let's go over here. I have Shug in crate because she was off the charts. I got the girls running around. They'll go lay down. It's even too early to feed them. Alright, we got coffee going. Everything is so dusty. I can't stand it. Let me grab my coffee. Oh, let's do this. Let me turn this light off. I'm going to turn the light off. Hang on. Look at my tomatoes. Look at them. Aren't they beautiful? They're from the garden. All right, come on. Let's go paint. Let's go draw. Although I need my other phone. Because I'm going to put the girl in. Where do I want to put you? Let's put you over here, maybe. Hold on. When you live in a shoebox, you can only do so much. And then I'll kind of describe a little bit what I'm doing with this painting. I need some coffee. Do you have your coffee? Could you get it? I have a couple things I need to sew, but I have to get in the right frame of mind for that. You know, here's the thing. Over the last 3 years, probably 3 years, up until I actually sat down to write my book that's published, it would be no big deal for me to get up, make my coffee, throw myself together, and sit at the computer for hours at a time and write. I got to a point where writing was emotionally hurting me. It was keeping me locked into something I no longer wanted to be locked into. That also comes from years of trauma and abuse and betrayal, because all of those things that are locked into the amygdala and the limbic part of your brain, it gets stored up. And when you were writing, let me see where I can put my coffee. When you were writing, it releases a vault. That's a good way to put it. It releases a vault. You've unleashed Pandora's box. I'm gonna fix my hair because I don't like it. Hang on. But writing, if there is creative flow, when you are writing, it's this coordination. Now you can handwrite, you can write everything out, which I did years ago. Years ago, way before my youngest was born. I always kept a journal. I always wrote, I always doodled and sketched and painted. But when you are on the computer and you get your fingers all going and you have a flood of emotion that comes out, especially in story form. Now me, the way my brain works, I see everything in a movie. When I was writing When He Had Her, it was a movie. I could see every scene as if I was watching it on TV or on the big screen. Also, when you were writing and you were allowing other people to get glimpses into your brain and into your emotion and into your creativity, you allow yourself to be very vulnerable, because people are seeing and reading things that oftentimes we keep very close to ourselves, especially when there is betrayal and abuse, traumatic experiences. All those things that are stored up in the amygdala and the limbic part of your brain. Now, mind you, I've taken anatomy and physiology twice in life, so I do know a little bit about different components of the body and how certain things work. When I was studying life coaching and learning more about psychology and why and how people act the way that they do, understanding productive environment, which you will hear me talk about all the time, productive environment. We are sculpted, and we see things and we experience things in our own family dynamics, and what we are familiar to, we somehow end up attracting and bringing into our lives. And the things that we are missing also in our lives, subconsciously, we attract what's missing, but then once we have that component, we don't know how to act with it, and we become very vulnerable because we expose who we are and how we are and the emotion and our actions that so many times we keep so hidden and locked within ourselves. Trying not to fall over my paints. I have paints everywhere here in this room. I can't tell you how big this room is. It's not very big. But anyway, when you were writing, when I would sit down and I would write at the computer, I could sit there for hours and get lost, and I would become this whole different human being. And then once it was all released and it was out of my brain, I no longer had to think about that part. And I always say, if you didn't want to be written about in some unfair, unkind, some ugly fashion, then probably you should have been a better person. You should have made a better impact on people's lives. Can't do ugly things to people and expect to be praised. Expect to be talking about in this very high regard. Now, a lot of the things that I do write are fictional, but they also come with a very personal emotion. I miss being able to sit down at the computer and write. And I think my struggle with writing the second book, Seaside Shore, which is mostly a romantic, it's just a chick book, if you may. Some of the experiences that the gal is having to go through, it's creative expression. This book has so many characters and plots and subplots and takes place in 3 different areas: the Midwest, Pennsylvania, the Outer Banks. Now, I've been to North Carolina, just a hint of it. So my imagination is just like really scoping out. I need to get to Bangor, Pennsylvania. I need to go through Ohio, because the story in itself, they start out in the Midwest. Her father goes to the Outer Banks. She goes to Bangor, Pennsylvania. I need to live that, what she was feeling, living in the Midwest, driving through Ohio, up to Pennsylvania. And I'm not real sure exactly in my head yet, because I haven't gotten to that part. What was the crux of her wanting to go to Pennsylvania? Maybe she went to school up there. Maybe she followed a boy up there. I don't know. I haven't gotten to that part. That part comes always later in self-reflection of the character, when you're learning about the character's dynamic. But driving through Ohio, I've been wanting to go to Ohio for I can't tell you how long. Pennsylvania, there is more about Pennsylvania than most people can understand, recognize. You know, way back in the day, you know, it was a big steel manufacturing state. There were more waterways in Pennsylvania. But she ends up in Bangor, which is the slate part of, you know, like your slate roof or your slate rock. That's what they mined. And that's where she ends up. And I keep doing all of these deep dive studies on Pennsylvania, and my heart, I'm being called to go. So, you know, it's like that part is far-wrenching when I go to sit down at a computer, because I don't have that personalized experience. I have a little bit of experience when I'm writing about, you know, North Carolina, when I'm writing about the mountains, when I'm writing about the ocean. You know, I'm a July baby, I'm a water baby, anything about water. You know, water soothes the soul. It can either baptize you or it can drown you. Water is a force that most of the time you don't want to reckon with, if Mother Nature has had her hand in it. And right now, with all the floods that we are having here in Missouri, trying to get back to writing, this is my whole point. When you are a creative person and it takes such an emotional toll on you mentally, and you are trying to live functioning physically in an environment that is hurting you, and it is making you sick, and it is depleting all of your energy and your well-being, something has to give somewhere. I I don't have a pot to piss in right now. My check again was really, really low this week, with taking off a day only because I was sick. Usually I go in and I muddle through. This week I could not. The heat, the humidity has gotten to me, and heat very much plays a very big, weather in itself plays a very big impact in my life, and I think that's because of the autoimmune issues that I have. There is so much money. This is another thing. There's so much money left on the table. There are so many different ways to make money. And if you don't become vulnerable and allow people to see what you are actually able to create and build from the ground up, you'll never get to that place where you can make that extra money. I've always had my hand in food and beverage, always. I always say, you know, I can talk you to death or force feed you. That's the haphazard. Sorry, I don't like this glare. It's the haphazard of being Italian. Let's try that for a hot minute. But being in food and beverage, it allowed me to have that extra cash. It allowed me to have a paycheck. The environment, though, the environment is not as conducive as it used to be. They say when you're doing video, in order to keep your people's attentions, move around. Well, sorry, I think I'm moving around a little too much. And I'm too close. I don't like to be this close to you. I need my space. And my chair's right there. Can I move it without knocking something over? Probably not. Can you see the painting there? But being creative and allowing people to see what you can put together from nothing, knowing there is so much money on the table. Now, this might not look like anything to anybody. I don't like my ocean at all. I will go back and it's mostly interpretation. That's the other thing about art. That's the other thing about being creative. That's the other thing about when you were writing. It is interpretation. Now, how you choose to use grammar and punctuation and being a linguist and putting it all in a copacetic fashion that people are understanding the storyline. Interpretation, perspective, perception. So if I show you this painting and if I bring it real close, it's not going to look like anything. But if I push it back and you were looking at it from another view, you get the generalized idea of what the painting is going to look like. And I teach that. Now, I will go in today, here in a little bit, and I will work on that cloud. I will go in and I will make my sun a little brighter. And then I will draw in my girl. And I will use... I love watercolored pencils. Love, love, love. Also, when I'm putting the syllabus together, what I will find probably more fun is telling people what supplies they will need in order to take this class. But watercolor pencils are the way to go. Because if you draw something out in your canvas and you're using your paints, you can blend all of this in for more depth, more shadows. Also, when you are using, just your basic brush, your flat brushes, large flat brush, smaller flat brush, fine brush, all of your round brushes. Once you learn technique, every bit of those strokes on your canvas becomes so much more easier. You will learn through, the flick of your wrist within those techniques that I teach, where it helps so much with your perception, perspective, your interpretation. Like I have said, the last couple years I have gotten so far removed from the original goal of just being able to teach, just being able to write. I can come online, I can talk, I can be in front of an audience. I'm not shy by any means. I can be an introvert at times, and I will assess the room. I think years of studying theater, I think that has helped. I think being Italian and having a personality, that has helped with my teaching. Being able to converse with people, being able to life coach through art and communication, because once you learn something, you can never unlearn it, and once you know it, it can never be taken away from you. And once somebody opens your eyes to other facts, so you can better understand your own personal dynamics and how being vulnerable and being exposed when you were such a closed-off person, not understanding many times the trauma, the drama, the chaos that ensued in your life growing up or with whomever you have been involved with, it very much plays a huge factor, and it does change the trajectory of your life. We grieve in different stages, and we grieve so many different things in so many different degrees that we oftentimes don't even realize it is grief. And we have these grand visions in our head, but because the logical part of life says you can't believe that, you can't think that, you can't implement that, because that is not the norm society is asking from you. And those are all the things that I debunked. Because if you can envision it, and you can see it, and you can understand why your trauma is there, and why you feel so exposed, it makes you want to live life just a little bit better with more purpose. Might just be a plain art class to somebody, and maybe your brain doesn't work like that. Maybe you don't want to find that creative side. Maybe you don't want to have anything exposed about you. But until you understand your core, your emotional dynamic, who made you like this? Who did this to you? How much did you have to go within in order to discover really who you are? And then once you discovered who you are, you didn't want anybody to know about it. Because when people find out you're smart, you're talented, you're creative, it goes against their discernment. One, they don't want you to do any better than them. Two, they don't want to know that you've had all this talent hidden, and how can you now change in your life? How can you want more when these people don't know how to ask for more, to do more, because they have been stuck in that societal image? It's what society is asked. It is what society is deemed as this is how you're supposed to live your life. I teach all of these things in my vision board class, in my painting class, when I'm teaching how to write a book, when I'm business coaching. I am Kitrynmarie. I do reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, writer, speaker, life, and a business coach, a published author when he had her available on Amazon. I am going to work on my painting today. I am going to make those sweet rolls. I'm going to try to be creative. I'm going to try to work on my second book. Finding your spark and finding your joy when understanding how your life changed due to the traumatic events that have taken place and how vulnerable you want to be going forward, telling your story, allowing people to see really how smart and intelligent you are and how you had to dumb down for other people to keep them comfortable, to keep them happy, to keep them complacent so they could control you. For today, for tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. Remember, fate turns on a dime, and it is up to you to decide what side of the coin you want to be on. If you are interested in any of my classes, reach out kitrynmarie@gmail.com. Go over to my website, kitryn-marie.weebly.com. Wherever you are, stay very dry, stay happy, get back to who you are, find your spark. It's important. People need to see how smart, intelligent, and creative you are. Take care. I'll see you soon.